This program is brought to you by the following sponsors. Singapore Aviation. A humble demonstration flight a century ago heralded the start of aviation in Singapore. Now, Singapore is an aviation hub connecting places, people and ideas. Supported by a bustling aerospace industry, delivering tons of cargo around the world. Guarding our skies, our way of life. From an island to a global city. This is Singapore's aviation story on its centennial year. The aerobatics display never fails to enthrall crowds at the Singapore Air Show. But at the last event in 2010, what was a bigger draw was the over $12 billion in deals sealed and signed. Major coup for an industry that's highly competitive and bent on cornering the market. It had trade representatives from 133 countries and 62 top global aerospace companies jostling for deals. In one event over 1 week, the Singapore aviation industry upped the stakes for the local aerospace companies to grow and explore lucrative global deals. Singapore is an obvious choice for global aerospace. Its status as an aviation hub grows the aerospace industry in tandem. With regulations for high standards in maintenance, repair and overhaul or MRO services, the industry provides stringent engine maintenance, making Singapore Asia's largest and most comprehensive MRO hub with a 25% share of the Asia-Pacific market. Close to the airport, the eastern stretch of Singapore is dotted with MRO clusters, home to small and large local and global aerospace players. ST Aerospace, beyond its specialized MRO services, carved a niche internationally in the complex passenger-to-freight conversion service. And SIA Engineering made news with a number of firsts in the global MRO industry. Opened the world's first custom-made hangar for the A380, making it also the first maintenance repair and overhaul provider in the world to service the Super Jumbo. Another of SIA Engineering's lucrative investment, Eagle Services Asia, a joint venture between global manufacturer of aircraft engines, Pratt & Whitney or P&W. This morning, an engine is going through a routine scheduled maintenance. First, a full-on diagnosis to test and find out if anything needs to be fixed. A painstaking process with no room for error. Workings of an aircraft engine are complex, so understanding the simple basics is key.
Basically, the engine in layman's term, it works on suck, squeeze, bang, blow. First step of the engine is we have the fan blades here. They actually provide, as they rotate, they actually create the suction. So that's the suck part of it. After the suck, the engine now goes through a squeeze process, which is the compression of the engine. So we have about 15 stages of compressor where we squeeze the air that comes through the engine. Then we go through the bang process, where it's the combustion of the engine. Then after the bang process, we have the blow process, which is the turbine side, which then comes out through the exit here, and that creates the thrust of the engine.
Engine maintenance typically takes 9 to 12 weeks at ESA, but not all the time all the parts stay here for repairs. Large MROs like ESA depend on smaller supporting companies for value-add services.
We've tried to set up a network of repair facilities throughout that'll allow us to kind of create a very rigorous ecosystem here and perform very specific overhaul and repairs.
all the way across the city in Tuas sits an MRO which receives the smaller engine parts like blades and vanes from ESA for repair and testing. 200 of them flank the rear end of the engine. Hot air from combustion passes through these blades, creating the thrust for the plane to move and fly.
This particular part has to experience temperatures that are between 1500 to 2000 Fahrenheit. They also have to experience pressures which are about 30 to 40 times normal pressure around us. So there's very little margin for error. So that's why every part of this component has to be very precisely repaired.
Back at ESA, all the parts are repaired, tested and returned for the engine assembly.
We are walking through the assembly line. It's right in front of you here. This engine now, we are in the process of putting it back together into one whole engine.
The engines will then be fired up, tested and shipped out. The 900 people at ESA are busy on up to 300 engines a year, a slice of the MRO pie that is growing steadily.
Now we have completed the overhaul of the engine, and now we are ready to deliver the engine today.
In 2012, outside the United States, P&W will start in Singapore MRO service capabilities for its revolutionary Pure Power PW1000 engine family. The engine is known for improvements in fuel efficiency and emissions with a 50% reduction in noise. The technology is highly proprietary, and Singapore is trusted with it, mark of a growing global confidence. 100 airlines, 6,000 flights weekly. A growth in air traffic in Asia will also parallel growth in Singapore's aerospace industry. North of the island in Seletar, an old British airbase is being transformed into a new home for the fast-growing aerospace industry. MAJ Aviation is an MRO company, but in a very different niche. This old British-era hangar is home to MAJ. The bullet holes from World War II attest to its vintage.
This Cyrus SR22 is very popular nowadays among hobbyists. These private individuals, they just want to have the latest in technology. A lot of them have businesses in Malaysia. In the past, this area of business was not very well serviced because there are bigger MRO players, and for them, I think the cost structure is a bit higher, and you'll find that this niche market are not well serviced. These people are looking for flexibility in terms of the things that they want, and also they are looking for a more competitive pricing.
Offering his customers flexibility right down to tinkering with their own planes if they wish to, MAJ, which took up this hangar just months ago, has signed up several clients from individuals to flying clubs. But Beng Kiet has his eyes set beyond his bullet-ridden hangar. With his partner Kim Hai, he has government support to develop an innovative idea for a new hangar that'll be part of Seletar's redeveloped aerospace hub. In land-scarce Singapore, MAJ hit upon an idea of a double-level carousel-style aircraft parking bay.
The aircraft carousel basically make use of the aircraft geometry to compact park an aircraft. Imagine that the aircraft have a wide wingspan and a very narrow tail section. So by parking the aircraft in the circle with the narrow tail section in the center, you can actually compact park the aircraft in this manner.
The Seletar Aerospace Park sits on a site that has deep roots in Singapore's aviation history. In 1928, Seletar became home to Singapore's first runway, an airport and a hub of British military air power in the region for nearly half a century. For decades since, these vintage hangars house planes belonging to aviation enthusiasts like Jonathan Tay. Jonathan is a Polytechnic student and pilot.
This plane is awesome. It's state-of-the-art. 50-50 between me and my dad. We both like the avionics and the features of this plane, so we decided on it together.
Here with his co-pilot, Jonathan, who shares his love for flying with his father, has flown together near and far.
When you fly over Greenland, and to be able to fly over these exquisite regions gives you a kind of special emotion that it's hard to find anywhere else.
Today, with remnants of the old Seletar still there, the new Seletar is set to tap on its aviation roots. Seletar Aerospace Park, when ready in 2018, will support the needs of a growing aerospace sector focused on MRO services as well as business and general aviation. And sitting on a land space size of 21 football fields is a provider of aircraft engines, Royce, the crown jewel of the Seletar Aerospace Park. As a global aerospace hub, Singapore is a choice location for Rolls-Royce as it continues to expand its global footprint. This is Rolls-Royce's manufacturing plant in the UK. But more advanced than this will be the Seletar plant, also Asia's first. When commissioned, it will manufacture, assemble and test the Trent 900 engines, which power the A380. Building an engine also means expert skills transfer. So outside of the UK and the US, Rolls-Royce set up Asia's first regional training centre at Seletar to provide highly specialised training for its technicians and engineers in Singapore and across the region. Rolls-Royce's presence in Singapore is not recent. Taking an early stake in the partnership a decade ago was local aerospace company SIA Engineering, when it decided to tie up with Rolls-Royce to set up a joint venture maintaining Rolls-Royce Trent engines. Local global tie-ups like this is what gives Singapore Aerospace its strategic hub status. Like many of its neighbours at Seletar, Hawker Pacific has been part of Singapore's aviation since the 1990s, a niche outfit providing for a multi-million-dollar corporate and private clientele. Priding itself to be a one-stop full aircraft sales and servicing centre, Hawker saw in Seletar's expansion plans as an aerospace hub an opportunity for itself to do the same.
The market has all of the hallmarks of significant growth. When we look at the development of business around the region and people needing to be mobile and into Asia trading, we see a massive growth. China's airways are opening up more and more, so into flying in and around China is going to be the next step. That market alone is looking at up to 500 new aircraft being delivered over the next 5 years.
Plans for expansion will include providing for a full suite of services, from sales, aircraft maintenance, painting to complete aircraft management.
The real value-add proposition comes in being able to be the one-stop shop, so you don't have to go and talk to different vendors and different people. There are a lot of complexities tied up in not just the ownership of the aircraft, but the responsibility of operating it. This is a highly regulated industry.
For Hawker Pacific, setting up and now expanding its base in Singapore is more than just about providing a convenient service for its clients. It's about plugging into an aviation hub that's sitting in a connected global city.
A lot of our customers live away from Singapore, but they fly in here a lot because of Singapore, because it is an investment and banking centre.
Singapore's aviation industry is growing. With this growth will come a parallel demand for a highly skilled and trained workforce. From technical to professional, the city's various training institutions are carving out their own niche in developing the next generation of aviation professionals. Getting a hands-on learning experience are these young apprentices from the Institute of Technical Education, or ITE. At Eurocopter, the world's leading helicopter manufacturer, MRO manager Stephen Goh is patiently taking his young charges through the paces on helicopter maintenance. Apprenticeships like this contribute towards strengthening a student's resolve in pursuing a career in aviation.
One of the advantages of this intern, where we can also identify those people with aptitude and in which area, because you can have a person who is really good in airframe, or he maybe has got inclination to engines or the avionics and the electrical section of the aircraft.
Eurocopter Southeast Asia, sitting on an 8,200 square metre office space at the Seletar Aerospace Park, has doubled its hangar capacity to support its expansion in the region. The company brings together the best of German and French technology in helicopter manufacturing and design. World-class aerospace technology that probably has inspired a generation of aviation enthusiasts to take it on as a profession.
When I was a kid, my dad used to take me to this air show, right? And I just love the sound of aircraft, starting. My passion for aviation grew when I was young. Okay, I aspired to become a pilot. My dad told me before he passed away, he told me, just follow your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do this or you can't do that.
Over at the Nanyang Technological University, or NTU, another class of young aeronautical students is dreaming just as big, coming up with ideas and designs that may one day have an impact on aviation.
To be fuel economical.
Being able to carry more people and to further places. But I feel that being environmental friendly is also very, very important.
This fuel engine is going to be run on not fuel, can be running on something else like water.
What are you guys doing?
With a focus on research and development, the students here are taught to think beyond their basic engineering curriculum.
Over here, what we're trying to do here is actually largely research-driven, because from the research then we get new ideas, and from new ideas then can we get better products and better engineering systems out there. And instead of repeating the same thing over and over again, what we're trying to do here is to educate the students so that they'll be provided with a solid foundation in aerodynamics, propulsion, so on and so forth. And then we just literally let their ideas take flight.
It's a hexacopter. May look like just fun, but for each of these creations, there is a gem of an idea.
I think that the hexacopter can be used for aerial surveillance by maybe SCDF or police in chasing criminals or surveying a fire that just broke out, and also it's for surveying the enemy, going into enemy territory before your troops are even there.
Even though budding ideas are confined to the classroom for now, the students are following trends in the real world of aviation. So when their turn comes, they will be able to step up to the challenge. A big challenge global aviation is facing is the impact on the environment. It makes up 2% of CO2 emissions, so green aviation are today's new buzzwords in the industry. And nowhere is this having a greater resonance than among the next generation of aviation professionals. At the Temasek Clean Energy Research Center, alternative energy sources like solar, wind and tidal energy are being used to produce fuel hydrogen that can then be fed to a fuel cell to generate electrical power.
Fuel cell has been used as a power source to power the lightings, entertainment systems in the aircraft while it's landed. I would say that the progression is the technology is pretty good. So we expect the fuel cell to be able to power the single-seater aircraft.
Meanwhile, the centre's progress in advanced battery-powered personal transporter that can also be used on airport grounds is steady. The centre, working with government and private sector grants, is setting out to inspire the new generation of aviation professionals to come up with the next breakthrough for green technology. Back in Seletar, one of Singapore's oldest flying clubs, the Republic of Singapore Flying Club provides aviation enthusiasts a chance to pursue their dream profession. Arisman, an air traffic controller, one of the guiding hands of hundreds of flights daily, decided to give a go at what it takes to be at the other end of the controls.
If you do it every day, or you do it most often, I think you get it into a rhythm to go around the plane. So basically right now is the control surfaces, so you can see the yoke moving.
On his off days, he heads to the club for training for a private pilot license.
I always wanted to fly. It's a childhood lifetime dream to fly. And secondly, because of my job, I think for an air traffic controller, I always have the full picture at the tower, of how the aerodrome, how the traffic builds up and stuff. But having the opportunity to fly, I tend to appreciate what kind of view the pilots have from the air and how they view the traffic from the other side.
This morning, Arisman is taking flight instructions from veteran recreation pilot Bakchun, who himself has been flying and training since the 60s. With the growing demand for commercial pilots in the aviation industry, who knows? One day Arisman may be at the receiving end of instructions from his colleagues at the control tower in Changi. Singapore Aviation, a diverse industry poised for growth. With air traffic in Asia-Pacific expected to increase, managing future market and human resource demands in aviation will be the challenge. From airport management, cargo and logistics, to aerospace engineering and manpower training, it will take concerted efforts and continued innovative thinking to sharpen the competitive edge of Singapore's thriving aviation hub. This program was brought to you by the following sponsors: